Welcome to the Monopoly Mindset, the podcast where we uncover the strategies to build your real estate portfolio one property at a time.
We're your hosts, Tyler and Tommy, here to share our story of playing real-life Monopoly.
Whether you're just starting out or a seasoned investor, this is your go-to resource for mastering the real estate game.
So grab your board, roll the dice, and let's buy Boardwalk together.
Welcome back to the Monopoly Mindset, episode 33. Have a pretty good episode coming up today. We're going to be talking about property management, kind of where Ty and I are at in our property management journey, some systems, some software, and some outsourcing. So it should be a fun episode, diving deep. Ty and I just got back from a wedding. Shout out to the new brides, Kevin and Christina. We wanted to do a podcast in person. That's a goal of ours. We're up to 33 episodes now and still haven't managed to do one in person together. Every time we get together, it seems like we just get overwhelmingly busy and can't manage to squeeze a pod in. But one day we'll have a live pod coming up, maybe over Thanksgiving when we see each other. We'll be able to do it.
Yeah, so our wedding was Jonathan Ryder's, who was our last guest, his brother-in-law. So it's kind of, we're all related somehow, some way. Today we just wanted to talk about not necessarily like the best possible way to manage a rental portfolio because right now soon to be I'll be managing 3, but basically just kind of what our systems are. Again, I'm not obviously the more units you have, it's going to change, and when you're just starting out, it's probably going to be a lot different. But we're probably a better example because I'll have 3 places 4 that I'm managing, and Tommy, I don't even know what your number is anymore, but so kind of like smaller and a medium.
Yeah. Sometimes I forget what my number is as well. And I think the point of the podcast today that we're trying to get across, the overall point is that we want to let people know property management from an owning a property perspective is not nearly as scary or dramatic or awful as like the clickbaity things that you see online. Oh my God, I owned a rental property and I had a toilet leak and I got a call at 2 a.m. This is miserable. Like, it's not that bad.
Yeah. There are some surprises, though, that I feel like a lot of people don't talk about that we can get into that are more of like the emotional, like making tough decisions and like being hard on your tenants that at least I experienced that before you get into it, you don't really realize are going to happen. But anyway, we basically want to start off with both of our biggest horror stories in property management. So why don't you go first and give me yours?
So when I decided that I needed to switch over property management or like get a better property management software, it really came when I had my rental property and I was renting out to like 4 college students, and I basically just wanted to be a more fun landlord. Like, hey guys, just Venmo me your payments. I thought that was like a cool added feature. At the time, Venmo kind of just came out, and I was getting Venmo requests from 4 kids. Not the end of the world, but you're getting $300 sent to you 4 different times, and like those transactions started to add up once I had 3 to 4 properties. And then also got like more annoying because I would get paid for my properties and then I was getting paid for TDJ's properties, and so I'm getting like 15 16 Venmo requests, and now I'm trying to remember, okay, this goes into that account, this one goes into this account, and I would put it in the wrong amount. And then like not everybody pays immediately, or some people might pay earlier or later, so I would get $600 of my money and then I'd get $400 of TDJ money, and it's like, all right, where? And I just started messing this up so much because it gets so confusing. Oh, and then I'd be out to dinner and Ty would be like, yo, you want to just Venmo me for like $40 for dinner? And I'd be like, yeah, but let me sit there and figure out who owes money into which account before I can send it, because I would try to wait until I got all the payments so I could just send like the full $1,200 or $1,600 into that specific account for that specific company. But again, out to dinner with Ty, need the money right away. Ty, let me think about where this money came from and where it went. And so I just dealt with that for almost a year and a half to 2 years, and it became really aggravating. no matter what I'm doing, somebody would always Venmo me ask for Venmo the second that I got paid. So that's when I really started trying to find like a property management software. And the first one that really came up that I tried that I seemed to like was called Rent Ready. It was talked a lot about on Bigger Pockets, and I decided to give it a try. And the coolest thing that it allowed me to do was just collect ACH payments and basically get the tenants to log into an app where they can make payments, and I would just get direct deposit from that app over to my bank account. And that simplicity made managing my properties. It took like, I don't know, something that I pay like $15 a month for, simplified.
Not even. Yeah, it's like, yeah, I don't know, $60 a year, or like it depends how many properties you. Yeah,
Yeah.
if you, the more properties, it could be like $10 a year per property. So
Yeah,
it's definitely well worth it.
It was very affordable, but the time factor, again, like $10 a month, whatever it might have been, it saved me. I mean, probably 2 to 3 hours of just tedious work of like thinking of where it was paid, and then fixing it was put in the wrong account and transferring it. So all that got alleviated by simply implementing Rent Ready into my portfolio. So that
Yeah,
was
it's also a lot harder to track income on with Venmo, right? Because you have to like screenshot every single Venmo and like add it up, and you don't really have to track income. Obviously, you still have to track expenses, but literally at the end of the year, Rent Ready just pops you out an Excel sheet with your total income at the bottom, and it's like very simple. It's basically your rent times 12, assuming you got rent every month. But yeah, I also started using that right away. When I was first starting out, I definitely wanted to like set everything up with the idea that I want to grow. So like I wanted the systems to be in place as if I had 100 units, even though I only had one, right? And I will say I didn't fully stick to that. Like there's definitely some things that I still do that are like premature early on that I would have to change as I grow. But I did definitely try and start out like, okay, I'm using Rent Ready. I didn't even give my tenants an option to pay by check. Like I think my tenant, I inherited a tenant. He was paying the old landlord by check, and I don't know what I would have done if he said no, I'm not using this software. But like, come on, it's 2025. Everybody has a laptop or a cell phone or an email. Like if I don't know, everyone has that stuff, and like pretty much everybody has online banking now. So I don't think it's really going to be too much of a tough sell to get people to use that. But yeah, I mean, I don't really have a ton of horror stories yet. Like, I guess, other than like random maintenance calls, that first month that my tenant paid me, he had automatic checks sent to his last landlord, and he forgot to turn it off. So I want to say he didn't pay me. He was just like, yo, I sent it to the old owner. And they were friends. And like, technically, the old owner could have just been like, sorry, dude, you sent me money. Like, thanks. But everyone was like cool about the situation. So I went and picked up the cash, like in an envelope from the old owner. They gave all of it to me, and everything like worked out fine. And then he canceled it. And then yeah, just like dryers breaking. But I mean, I feel like I spend. I mean, Airbnb, I basically spend no time, but I have property management there, and then the duplex. On like managing the property, maybe an hour a month, like max, maybe not even. But yeah, I mean, definitely recommend the app. I don't really use maintenance request, but
I don't want to take credit, but I find that like obviously like I got started in real estate a little bit before you, and I tried things out, and like I was kind of learning as I was going. And I don't think Rent Ready was available when I first started in real estate, but once that app came out and like you could use some technology to really simplify a lot of things from running a rental portfolio, that was something that I originally like said to you like, hey Ty, go get Rent Ready. Like you're gonna thank me later because it's gonna solve a ton of headaches. You're not gonna have to deal with the checks or deal with trying to figure out how to get money. You'll get it there, and you can kind of just look at your portfolio in one app and like just it was a very simplistic way to get started. And to Ty's points, like you want to build a business that's going to kind of future proof your business, and you want to get systems in place and processes in place that are going to allow you to scale and allow you to grow. And so as I was getting all my Venmo requests, like that was limiting me being able to grow, where Rent Ready simplified that and allowed me to grow. And I think that also just again speaks to having these conversations with people like Ty and I that are, investors and have been investors for a long period of time. Like there's mistakes we made at the beginning that we tell all new investors to avoid. I think there's a lot of value in that.
Yeah, and then there's also that none of that like, oh, well, I sent it, it's in the mail, the mail's like it must have went to the wrong place, but they never actually sent it, or like a check bounces. Like you don't really have to worry about any of that. I did have an issue. Same guy, and this guy's awesome. He's never even been late. I've only had just like technical issues where like one time, the thing with Rent Ready is even if they don't have the money in their account, they will deposit the money into the landlord's account, and then they'll come like take it back. So like he made a payment on auto pay, but he was traveling outside the country. So his bank canceled his card or something. Like they declined the payment. And so like the money was already in my account, but then like 2 days later, the money comes out of my account, and I'm like, yo, like looks like your payment got like bounced. But he was like, yeah, I'm out of the country, and then like resolved it right away. But yeah, definitely electronic. I would not go any other way, personally.
So what other systems do you think are must-haves as kind of like, property management perspective goes, or managing your portfolio, as a business and trying to make it as efficient as possible? Like what else does Rent Ready offer?
I mean, the biggest one for me also is getting new tenants and like posting to the platform. So like I've never posted to another platform. I took my own pictures, posted to Rent Ready, and they posted on like Zillow, Realtor, Trulia, like I don't know, 4 or 5 different ones, and you pay like I forget, maybe like $1 a day, which is a no-brainer. Even 2 months is $60, right? Like that's nothing in the grand scheme of things. But then then people reach out to you. They'll apply through Rent Ready. So the way I did it is I would show them the house, and then if they liked it enough, then they would spend the $35 to apply. I didn't really want to make people spend the $35 without seeing it. So I would show people the house. They would spend the $35 to apply. And then I think within like 24 hours, you get all their information, like background check, income. We've talked a little bit about this in the past, but it basically lays out everything for you. So it made it really simple to get new tenants in that aspect. And then you just say like, hey, I'm done, tenant secured. It pulls it from all of the different apps. And yeah, that pretty much could not have been more simple. And for like, a couple of dollars, like it's 100% worth it.
I'd argue the number one mistake that landlords make is inconsistent screening, and every single tenant should kind of go through the same exact process, from a credit, background, employment, references. Shouldn't really have many shortcuts. One bad tenant can cost you thousands. I think that's exactly kind of what you're saying, is that Rent Ready allows you to have a really good tenant screening system. Obviously, I agree. You should show the property first. I don't love, hey, pay me $35 and then come see the property, and you have 10 people and you made $300 off it. Like, I don't know. To me, that's a little bit cheesy. I know some people do that because it's like, hey, I want to know that you're really serious. But
well, you don't make money. It goes right to Rent Ready. You don't see that $35, so it's not like you're getting their application fee. That's Rent Ready charging them to do the background check and all that.
Fair. But you can also upcharge that, so you can make it $50 and you could get the 15. So, but yeah, I'm with you. You wouldn't get the 35, but more or less my point is that I just don't love that concept. I know like when my sisters or other people have been applying for rent, and they're like, oh yeah, I put 5 applications in. I had to pay like $300 across all these places. Like, I know a lot of the bigger places do it. I think that's still something the mom and pop people are, hey, I'll show you the property. If you really like it, apply. I like that process better. Maybe that's being too nice, which is one of the issues I mainly have. But
Yeah.
tenant screening, having a consistent system is a huge, huge time saver.
Yeah.
And it becomes repeatable.
I mean, to your point, I also can see the landlord's perspective because people will go see the property that know they're not going to qualify. They know their credit's terrible. They know that they don't make 3 to 4 times the income, and they know that they want to bring whatever 5 dogs that you're not going to allow. So like there is a thing of like don't waste my time. So like pay the $35 before I drive out there and show it to you. So I'm not saying I'm always going to do that, but yeah, I mean I see both sides for sure.
And it's 100% true. Like, a bad tenant can cost you thousands. I did use Rent Ready. I did post an application, for rent. I had a bunch of people reach out to me on Zillow, and I set a bunch of appointments. Sarah and I ran the appointments. We got background checks on like the 5 to 6 people that did apply. Unfortunately, I made the mistake of picking the wrong tenant. I kind of thought that they would be a good fit and didn't maybe vet them as good as I should have. I did call reference. Part of me thinks that I got lied to because there's no way that this person would have gotten a good review. But then also, like, they had some job situations that changed and they weren't getting, the disability that they were getting in the past. And, things just didn't work out. Ultimately, it cost me a lot of money. And again, I was a little bit too nice. Another system I should have had in place is the eviction process, which I didn't necessarily have, but I, learned my lesson that I didn't, do a good enough job. But I still went through the process. I thought the best way that I could. I just made, a bad decision overall on who I picked. So, with that said, another one that we already touched on is just a rent collection system, automating payments to ACH, and sometimes you can even get auto draft where it just drafts automatically out of a tenant's account. So if you're still driving around and picking up rent checks, you're pretty much doing it wrong. One system change, getting ACH auto draft, and suddenly rent's going to be paid a lot smoother. And tenants love it. You're never really going to chase a rent check again. So I highly recommend getting some sort of rent collection system when you're first getting started in property management.
Yeah. Another thing that they offer that, again, this is something we could work on, and maybe it's not like a huge deal right now because of how, that we're still small, but maintenance requests, like I for sure they text me, and I've kind of mentioned it to them, like, hey, you can file maintenance requests on the app, but I think for some people that aren't as tech savvy, that might be a little confusing, and I'm still going to answer a text at this point. Now, there could come a day where I'm like, I'm not answering the text. And actually, that's another mistake, is giving out my personal number, and maybe we'll get into that. But anyway, Rent Ready has maintenance requests on the app. Our tenants don't use it, but I do think if you had like 10 properties or so, 5 to 10, whatever, and you're still self-managing, but you don't have property management, I think it would be better to have it all in one place instead of getting blown up on your own personal cell phone. Which, leading into that, that's definitely a mistake that I think I've done in the past. I did set up a Google phone, but I think just in general, it's best to separate yourself as the owner from the tenants, and giving out your personal cell phone is probably not the best idea. I don't think it's like the end of the world, but I guess it just depends on like what level of privacy you want to have. So up until now, my tenants have my personal phone number. Maybe we'll start switching to the Google phone because it's like free and it just sets up a number for you. But then those texts and calls go to your same phone, but the tenant would have no idea. So
it's tough to run a business. The best way to operate it is like a business, right? And when you're giving out the tenants your personal cell phone number, you're kind of making it more relationship based versus running it like a business. In a typical business and a lot of property management companies, you do file a request via the software that they tell you to use, and that's how the request gets submitted, and then they can process it that way. When you have and I'm just as guilty as you are. I'm in pretty much group texts with all of my tenants, and most of the maintenance requests are sent via text, and it's definitely not the best way to process it. I like, and I'm in a unique spot because I try to keep a good relationship with my tenants. A lot of them are Misericordia students on the football team, and I like having that relationship. But I think it can still be known to them, like, hey, I'm the owner, but like this is how things will be processed. And I think it might be more professional that way. Like, hey, submit your request via this app, and then we'll get your request handled. And it also, I think it allows more time in between issues, right? Like, if you text me, hey, Tommy, the toilet's leaking, like, you're gonna think like, why is Tommy not doing this, right? Like, you just texted me, like, I should be doing it right away. If you file something in the online system that says like, hey, what's your issue, put the level of severity, like what's going on, you can say like, hey, there's a toilet leaking, you should probably get to this like ASAP, and maybe put some urgency with that request, and it'll come in as like maybe a hot request, and we'll try to get to it sooner. But I think that person that submits like, and if you click urgent, maybe you're still expecting somebody to reach out right away, but a text message, you're expecting it to be instant. And it's, I think, a bad system to have set up, where if you have a way to request, I think that's overall better, and maybe that's something you and I can work on. Part of the fun in this is like reviewing how we're managing our properties, and we're not perfect at all, but we're still having a lot of success, and we're just trying to get better every day that we can.
Yeah, and I mean, and like the urgency of the text is also true, because I have my phone on me. Well, email is also still on me, but like if you text me, I'm gonna see it within a minute, probably all the time. I might not check my email till once a day, right? So like from the tenant's perspective, yeah, I am gonna see it a lot faster. Email, I mean, I definitely check it every day, but like maybe at the end of the day I see the request. But yeah, I think it's partially our fault for allowing people to do it. Like, we could definitely just say like, hey, like, we don't accept maintenance requests through the text, and they will eventually start to use the app. But again, with how often it happens, it hasn't been an issue yet. So I don't know.
There's also like Latchel that comes with Rent Ready, and like,
Yeah.
if I'm busy in a meeting, like I'm about to go out of the country, right? I'm leaving for Greece tomorrow. And if I get a text message, I don't know what the time zone's going to be. And I don't know if I'm going to respond or not respond to that text message in general. So a better solution is like getting Rent Ready and having something like Latchel where, hey, Ty texts that the toilet's running, and Rent Ready's going to handle the request and call the plumber to go out there, and it's done almost immediately. Or like sometimes you're going to put off a text message, and so if you can't get to the text right away, even if you see it, you might be in a meeting, you can't get to it. If you have a system in place to handle that request like right away, that's going to be more efficient than whenever you can get to your text message.
Yeah. Another thing, I mean, this is very obvious, but maybe people don't think of it as a system, but having the team to do the work is obviously huge. And I will say that it can be hard to grow a team. In like, we talk about finding a handyman a lot, and like I remember when I first started out, ironically this was the guy that just did all the work to my house, but like when I first got my duplex, I went online and I found handymen, and I called this guy and I was like, yo, just a heads up, I just bought a rental. I might need something in the future. And he's like, okay, like, what are you, cool? Like, you don't need anything right now? And I'm like, no, I just like, I want you to be thinking about me. And like, they don't care, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's hard to find teams unless you're actively using them. And same thing where like, if you use a guy once and then 3 years go by, call him again, he probably forgot about you, right? So I think that part can be hard when you're small, just because of how often you use somebody, and like how often you should be using somebody to maintain a relationship. But I don't know. I feel like I've gotten pretty good at this point, where like tree fell last week, know who to call. Bathroom, know who to call. Like small stuff, know who to call. And they're all different people. And if you don't have somebody, does your realtor have somebody? Does your friends have somebody? Like, does Tommy have somebody? So I know you have that Excel sheet that you been keeping that's like all the contractors, handyman, whatever, floor cleaners, like anybody that you might need in your area. And we actually use that to find our latest handyman.
Yeah, I'm 100%. I think having a nice database that you can refer to, for me, it's like anytime somebody said, hey, in Dallas, PA, I know a guy that does blah, blah, blah. I took that contact information and threw it into an Excel sheet for like a save it later. If I have, and seasons in life change. Like I had a phenomenal handyman. Everything he did, the prices were great. And he was crushing it so much that now he's just like building additions and like almost building houses. And like he doesn't necessarily want to go fix a leaking toilet. And I know I keep saying leaking toilet, so I got to come up with another maintenance issue. But when you hear all the TikToks that are like, "Oh my God, toilet's leaking 2 a.m.," like that's kind of what we're speaking against, because like it's not. I don't think I've ever had a leaking toilet at 2 a.m. the way that it's always talked
Yeah.
about. But
Yeah, I mean, and it's bound to happen if you have, if you have 5,000 units, I'm sure that happens at least once a year, but like those people aren't getting those calls. They're right. The owner of the 5,000 units is not the one. He doesn't even know about it.
yeah, and so my handyman, he's moved up to bigger things, and so we tried to find some other handyman. We went through this list that I created in an Excel sheet in Google Docs, and Ty called, one, I called the other, and the guy Ty called seemed to work better, and so we started using him. I reached out to my realtor, and I got another handyman for another project that we're working on. I plan to use him a little bit more too. So, now I went from like having half of a handyman to almost 3 different companies that I can call. And I definitely recommend that. Like, just save information whenever you have a conversation with somebody, or like, I've even done this. If I'm driving through that area that I have a rental property in, and I see, Ty's Painting Company, I'm going to take a screenshot of it, write that information down, and add it to this database. And like that's part of the sales rep in me, because I used to do that when I worked for Comcast and I was selling just to businesses. I'd be driving down the street and see Ty's Painting Company. I'd write that information down, give you guys a call later, and see if you need Comcast. So maybe that's where I picked up that habit. But if you own a rental property in a specific area, that's a really good habit to have. Just any type of contractor van that you see, take a photo, write their stuff down. I mean, those are great contacts to call on and see what their prices are.
Yeah. Another thing I wanted to touch on, and me and you differ in this area, but it's like late rent payments and rent ready. Another great thing. Typically in a lease, you'll have like some sort of late fee. Some of them are daily. Like I don't do daily, but like for example, mine's $50 on day 5 of being late. And some of them you could do like $50 on day 5 and then $10 a day until they pay. And like Rent Ready, you can plug this all in, so it will automatically charge them. But this is one thing that's as I mentioned in the beginning of the episode, like it's hard to like stick to these rules and make sure people pay on time and evict them if they don't pay. And I'm guilty of it myself. Like my tenant, I basically, the first time I waived the late fee, and this was like month 3. She should not be like 7 days late on month 3. It's going to be a bad experience. It's been 2 years now. She's still hanging on, but like every month is late. But eventually she was 12 days late, and I said, hey, by day 15, I'm going to start the eviction process. And she has not been that late since I said that. She's still late, but yeah, I don't know. It's like I just listened to Brandon Turner say like you have to be firm, and that's almost helping them out by like setting the ground rules on day 1, instead of like sometimes it's okay, but other times you're going to be strict, and it's just like, no, this is the lease, and like you have to stick to it. But I think that's something that we can both work on, because it's hard. Like it really is.
I wouldn't say we differ. I would just say that you listen to Brandon Turner and you're firm, and I wish that I could be more firm, and I think I'm working towards that. And that's one of the reasons I got a property manager, is because I noticed a limitation in myself, and I struggle to be firm, and I can believe certain stories, and I think things are going to work out, and sometimes they do, and then other times they don't. But regardless, it shouldn't even come to that chance, right? It should really be like, hey, this is the process, this is the system, and we're sticking with it. 5 days late, you owe me an extra $25 for late payment, and okay, you're 15 days late, we're starting the eviction process. And when you have, a system in place and it just becomes a repeatable process at that point, it's again running your business like a business versus kind of just a relationship. And it's tough. Relationships are always going to run their course at some point, or somebody's going to get more upset. Like, hey, well, you let me pay 3 months late one time. Why can't I do it again? It's like, well, that's not the precedent that we want set. So I think it's not more of a difference between you and I. I think that I just need to get much better at it, and I commend you for how you run your business because I think you do a really good job at it. One last thing, I just want to make a comment about the tenants before we move on. Stop letting tenants call or text you at midnight with random issues. Set up a maintenance request form or like a portal and help filter the emergencies from non-emergencies. And it also gives you a paper trail for like every repair. And I think that's really key too, because we'll have issues that like we talk about via text, but like just to protect us in general. Like if we have, hey, Tommy, toilet was leaking, but you never, maybe we didn't fix it. Or even if we did, like there's no real paper trail. So then say that something happens with like a mold issue from having water damage. Well, I can have the paper trail. Hey, got this day. It was fixed this day. And it's all handled right there via that maintenance request portal versus, all right, yeah, I got the text message. I don't know when I got to it. I never documented when it was done. It apparently got done by the handyman. Like there's no real structure in the text message system either from an accountability perspective in case if a bigger issue ever came from it. So I do think that's something we should work towards is implementing, just talking through it. We should have some sort of process because I think it'll make us better and it'll make us run our business better. So that's all I think we have for the systems that you must have while running a property management business.
Yeah. There is one more thought though that again, this is something we could work on. Well, I don't know about you. I don't really know if you want to do this because you almost use being the owner as an advantage to you. But a lot of people will say that you should just pretend like the property manager. Like if you're showing the property to tenants, just tell them you're the property manager, give them your phone number, a Google phone number, and then every single thing that they ask you or everything that happens, you have to ask the owner, right? So, or nothing is your decision. So you're not the bad guy for evicting them or charging them the late fee or they, like it's, hey, the owner said that he's going to raise rent on you. It gives you like a buffer of privacy. So again, they don't know that you're the owner. Granted, it's pretty easy to find out if you're like tech savvy at all. Just because like we look at it as how to buy properties, it's easy for us to find the owner's name of pretty much any property, right? But anyway, I feel like it just makes you a little bit more comfortable being firm because they don't look at you as the bad guy. You're just kind of the messenger in this situation. And so I've not done that in the past, but I might do it on my next property. My next property is like owned under my actual name, so like I don't know how I want to go about that. And like with leasing as well, like who signs the lease, right? Like the owner or the property manager. So I've had some questions about like legally how to do it, but I've heard that from a lot of people that just basically pretend like you're only the manager.
I'm with you. I think that's a really good concept. It's something I've tried at some points in the past and then like naturally just kind of came up that I was the owner. I struggled.
I forgot to mention.
What?
It's like, yeah, I forgot to mention. Yes, I am managing the property, but I also happen to own it. Sorry.
Sometimes it just came up and it probably shouldn't have, but it just did. And I did start that way, like, hey, I'm a manager. And then it kind of turned into like, hey, I am the owner. With the way that I manage the college rentals, I do try to be more friendly and handle issues and things because I find that helps with tenant turnover and I can get tenants easier because in the college rental perspective, Ty, you don't love this, and it's definitely kind of an issue. It's just that you have turnover pretty much every year, and you might have tenants for 2 years, but then they're going to turn over again, and you might have 2 or 3 kids that leave, and you have to get another 2 or 3 kids in. And so I find that you get more bees with honey, right? The sweeter you are, the nicer you are, the more kids that you're going to attract. And so I like to play that card, and I have a relationship of like, hey, I'm a Ms. alum. I have good relationships. I want to help out the best that I can. I want to do right by everybody. I think that works a lot, but at the same time, then people can ask me for things, and it's not like, hey, property manager said no, like it's over with, or like you kind of lose like that level of like, hey, we're going to go to the boss, right? Because they know they're already dealing with the boss, and sometimes there's a lot of value in like, all right, well, the property manager is saying no, but like let me ask the boss. Then maybe you can give a little bit, but it's less than you would have given if like they went directly to the boss. I'm with you. I don't know how I can fix that in my end. I mean, right now I have a property manager, and like I kind of say, hey, like this is his process, and like trying to get better at it. But I'm also in a lot of the group chats, and I do communicate. So it, that's
Yeah. I feel like it also just adds like it can maybe, I mean, we see the big companies that you can play things off. You can still be a good small landlord, but your tenant can maybe think that you're just one of these big property management companies that, hey, the owner does 3% raise per year no matter what on every property, like it's not negotiable. Like, you see the pictures with the little property management water print, and then like I got a letter when I was renting that was like, a nice letterhead and like signed property management company, and the owner does 3% raise. So there's no like negotiation there. It's just like, that could have been his only property, right? Or he could have had 1,000. Like, I have no idea, but just reiterating that, like adding that separation between you as the owner, because also if you're doing everything as the owner, it's probably a pretty big sign that you're not a huge landlord, right? Like you don't have 1,000 units because you are doing the stuff yourself. But yeah, I don't know. Again, I think the more that I acquire, these things will become more important to like really stick to these systems.
And it's tough, to your point. When you don't have a ton of properties, you kind of get a little bit lackadaisical when it comes to like how you run
Right.
certain things. But the more that you have a system in place, and like this is one that we kind of forgot to touch on, but just a turnover system, checklist for like your cleaning, your paint, your repairs, and then like getting it relisted. Like having a little spreadsheet, like Sarah and I were dealing with something where having an issue with trash at one of our properties, and we're like, oh, well, there's no like rules for the trash to tell the tenants what to do with the trash. So naturally they're going to have questions when the new group of tenants moves in. So why don't we get like a laminated document that shows the trash for this borough and township and how they run it, and put it on the fridge laminated? Like it's going to look better. It's going to help them realize like, hey, this is what to do with the trash. Right now they're taking all their beer bottles and they're throwing it in the trash, and not realizing that if you keep the beer can separate in a clear plastic bag, it doesn't have to go in the trash can. So then you can have like more space for actual trash. So little things like that, I think you can always get better at. And like it's just like anything else in life, like you have to keep getting better. And like this is something you and I are going to keep working towards, is trying to become better landlords and ultimately property managers. So we're going to keep trying to get these systems and make them repeatable, because we want to grow, and it becomes easier to grow when you have systems in place.
Yeah, and then obviously I think these systems are, at least the ones that I have, are basically only up until I hire property management, and then the systems change, and then the systems become like managing your property manager, which again, ideally should be way less work than managing the property yourself. That's why you're paying them. But yeah, and I don't know at what point I will switch to property management. I always had this idea that it was 10, but quickly I'm already thinking it might be sooner than that, because even like 3 or 4 kind of can be enough work that it takes away, and this is something you were dealing with, is it takes away from your growth, your ability to like think about growth and like buying new properties and how to get good deals, because you're just constantly, and again, it's not constant, but like a part of your brain is dedicated toward like dealing with tenants.
Yeah, and that's a perfect segue into like when to outsource, right? Property managers typically take 8 to 10%, but it kind of saves your sanity. And people think that paying a property manager 10% is expensive, but what's really expensive is your time. And if you can spend 10% to buy back your sanity and kind of scale to get more properties, it kind of feels like a no-brainer. And that's something that I 100% went through. And personally, I'm debating if I bring it back in, because I find that I kind of have, I don't want to say trust issues, but I just want everything ran efficiently. And it's tough when you have property managers to, like, they're never going to manage your property the way that you would. And even if you grow to a certain size, it's just something you have to be comfortable with. So that's an internal struggle that I have. But I was like Ty, I was managing about 13 properties or 10, 11 properties by myself, and became too much. And I wasn't able to think about the bigger tasks of how can I restructure my portfolio? How can I buy more properties? How can I analyze more deals? I wasn't doing the things to grow my portfolio because I was spending too much time managing. And some of that came from not having good systems and processes in place, and because I was too nice and I was trying to do too much instead of being a little bit more stern. So for me, I got to that place at 10 properties that I wanted to hire a property manager.
Yeah, so we'll see when I finally get there. I think it also depends on location. Like if you have properties spread out, obviously if I had a bunch in one location, I'd probably be more likely to do property management. And then location, how close you are. Like you almost don't have an option because you're so far away. I'm now 45 minutes away, which is like just on the cusp of like, I'm never gonna, an hour and a half round trip's a lot, but so is 10% a month. So like, I'm still gonna manage them for now, but I mean, that could change, I might hate it. Like I'm not getting into real estate because I enjoy property management. And I don't know too many landlords that do. So obviously the goal for me is to just completely outsource it one day and focus on the fun part, which is buying properties.
Yeah, and I mean, again, there's always a rule of thumb, outsource low dollar per hour tasks and focus on high dollar strategies, which is like where we want to be and what we want to be doing. But back to like systems and processes, you can come up with really good systems and try to use virtual assistants where you can to handle like low dollar tasks. And then you can also say if the virtual assistant's the one managing like these email requests that come in, and you have 3 local handymen that can handle 90% of issues on speed dial. So if A doesn't answer, you call B and then you call C. Like there's sort of ways to automate the property management and like save 6% if you want to go that route. So it's all about the systems that you want to set up for how you want to run your business, and you can always get better, and one way of getting better is trying to get down to 8% in property management versus 10%, or hey, I want to go to 4% but incorporate doing a little bit more work but not all of the work. So that's like kind of you and I did that with Woodlawn. We outsourced for 2%, so we don't have a full-on property manager. Oh yeah. Oh, it's
Too many properties, you get them all mixed up. But yeah, I mean, we're doing like a hybrid approach where we pay 2%, which is amazing. And yeah, we still do most of the work, but we have a guy there that can go to the property if needed. And I think he's gone once in 4 months. So
yeah, and I think that's a lot of discussion on outsourcing. If you want to, we can touch on some software that saves time. Like I know we already talked about Rent Ready a lot as far as a property management platform, but there's also Buildium, AppFolio, Tenant Cloud. There's a lot more other than those ones too. I still think there's a new one every single day that comes out, and there's a lot of value in getting a property management platform that can really simplify a lot of the property management features that we were talking about.
yeah, I think one software that I'm looking for is, this just seems to be the pain point in my like running a business, is like expense tracking. And like I'm doing like all these different things for different properties, and I need to find like maybe like a QuickBooks, but like, and I guess this isn't really management, but like when you get an expense from a maintenance request and you pay the guy to go out and do it, like how do you track that? So maybe we'll do like a whole episode on that, but that's definitely a software that I could I could use?
I'd argue it's still a part of property management. I mean, in my, we use Buildium with my property manager, and they do have like a taxes segment, and like basically everything that's paid for my property management company comes in like an actual sheet, and I can just upload that and send it over to my accountant, and it has all the expenses that were paid like per property, what the net revenue was per property, and like a lot of additional features. So I think accounting and finances can kind of fall under property management because you still have to manage like the money, and that's part of it. There's Stessa, which is free. I used to use that, but I kind of went away from it because I didn't feel like it had everything that I have. QuickBooks is another really good one that you brought up. I think it's a little bit more expensive, but again, talking about saving money on low dollar per hour tasks, like I absolutely hate going through spreadsheets and adding that. And then the other one is just using manual spreadsheets, which kind of is, I have a balance between both. I use Buildium for a lot of my stuff, but then I have a spreadsheet on my own for whatever isn't paid for in Buildium, which makes me kind of do my taxes and accounting things twice. So I could see me trying to migrate to like a QuickBooks or something like that just to simplify this moving forward as well.
Yeah. So again, this is kind of how we manage. It's bound to change. I'm sure in a year or 2 years, it's gonna be a little bit different. And just kind of talking through it with you, I've kind of realized there's a lot of things that we could be doing that we're not, and like making me think about, because I'm going to be listing my old house in like a week or so. So it's kind of reiterated some of the ideas that I should really like take into account.
It's always exciting when you start the journey over again and you try to find new tenants, because I think it gives you the opportunity to become a much better landlord. You can take everything you've learned and done in the past, and you can try to grow and say, you know what, I'm not going to do things this way, anymore. I'm going to do it this way, and you can just like kind of start fresh. So I think that you have that opportunity now, and I look forward to kind of hearing what that journey's like. So a couple other software features, you already hit on this one earlier, Ty, just talking about getting Google Voice or like a dedicated phone line for tenants, and that way they don't have your direct number and there's like a different way for them to communicate with you. I think that's a huge way to save time. You don't have to like check your personal phone or worry about things happening on your personal phone. You can kind of have it in like a different application that you check for messages and whatnot. And something I think you and I struggle with, or I know I struggle with tremendously in my personal life and also my properties, is just like scheduling reminders. There's software that helps you. There's Motion, there's Asana that kind of help with task management. I know Corey and Ryan in our Wealth Juice program that we're a part of use Asana. Maybe that's something you and I can check out. I've tried Motion with TDJ. I didn't love it. I always come back to like a tried and true like Google Sheets or Google Tasks. I find that one's very simple because you just brain dump in there, get the tasks, and then you distribute it like on a call with each other. So that's something I'm trying to get better at. Like,
yeah, I use iPhone Notes. Like anytime I have something to do, because like the checklist part where you can like add the check and then like check it off when you're done is like this. It's not going to show, but whatever. But yeah, anytime I like think of something that needs done, put it in a note with a little check mark, and that's my version of Google. Just because I feel like it's better on the phone. Like Google Drive and Sheets or whatever is amazing on the laptop, but I feel like on the phone, mobile, like Apple makes its stuff to work with its phone like superior.
100%. That's an argument I have against Apple all the time. It's like their products work so well together that like it's tough to incorporate other products. Yeah, I would argue that I like Google Tasks probably better. I don't know if you've used that. I tried to get you to use it, I think, a long time ago. It does have an app on the phone, and I think it's more simplistic and one of the easiest task things to use. But I've reverted back to Apple Reminders. I use the Reminders piece a lot more than I use the Notes. Just because it kind of automatically puts things in a spreadsheet, and I find it's quicker for like quick things to do, where Notes I'll try to put like a bigger project or something maybe in there. I think we could do an entire episode on this. I've read several books. I'm trying to master like the best way that I can handle reminders or issues that come up, and some things that we have to talk about. One of the main things is like, what do we need to get done at a property, right? Like kids texted us, hey, Or we got a text today. The contractor said, "Hey, or landscaper said we should cut a tree in half." Okay, when are we going to do that? When are we going to talk about it? Like having something where we just put that into like a task sheet that automatically gets scheduled, I think is a great way to move forward. And I'm curious if that's something you and I are going to talk more about offline, is like how to automate maintenance requests, because that could be something too. Instead of us texting our property manager, like maybe we pay him 3%. We add like, hey, this comes in, you call this guy. Like, so I think that's already part of his job description to some extent. So maybe like that's something we can do to make our jobs a little bit better and easier. But I think that was kind of one of the last things from softwares that really help save time. There's a ton of them, and with AI, things are getting super fast and super easy to get things done. So, got to take advantage of technology, as it keeps developing and helping us run our business, more and more.
Yeah. Yeah, I've only used RentReady to this point, but like you said, there's going to be hundreds of new tools probably soon with AI and ChatGPT. I have been using Chat a lot, which is helpful, but I don't really use it for a ton of real estate specific stuff yet.
I love using Chat for real estate specific stuff. I think we'll do an episode in the future about just how you can use Chat. If anything, I think it just gives you a great second brain to ask questions to and come up with solutions, and like even to half analyze a deal versus putting things like I think there's a ton of benefits to Chat. But we can kind of get close to wrapping this episode up. And just I guess a couple of tidbits that we wanted everybody to remember from this episode are: systems are going to create freedom. They turn real estate into a business and not necessarily a job. So real estate, again, it's supposed to give you that freedom, and without property management systems, you're creating an additional job for yourself. Some of the hacks that we use are the difference between being a landlord and being an investor. So we want to keep growing. If you have any of your own property management hacks you think are great, DM us, give us a comment, something that your current landlords use or something that you think we could incorporate. Let us know, and we'll try to bring it up in a future episode or add it to our business model. So thanks for tuning in to episode 33. We'll see you next week when I get back from Greece.
And thanks for tuning in. Bye.